Hmm? Yeah, yeah. No, we're not at the church. We're at home. Well, because we're doing a sort of a special episode, and I thought it was easier to bring you home than it would be to take all of this stuff over to the church. Well, showing off. Hello, everyone. I'm Father Aaron, and welcome to the Dungeon Minister. So today we are going to be doing a crafting the game episode. I haven't done one of these in a while, and I have been, well, I've been doing stuff, and I want to show off. And the other thing is, frankly, our schedule here at the house is a bit topsy-turvy right now, and a couple of the boys are sick, and so we haven't played a game recently. So I don't have anything to show you other than this stuff. So the stuff will have to do. Anyway, I want to start with something you've already seen if you've watched the Lair of the Lizard Men. Those episodes. I think slimy situation, scaly situation, and then slimy situation. And that's just dungeon tiles. Real basic, nothing fantastic or unusual here. I got the technique from Black Magic Craft, but I'm sure a lot of people do the exact same thing. Not to, dump on Black Magic Craft. Brilliant stuff, but I mean, and that's who I learned it from. And all it is the, the branded foam insulation board. With, try to hold it up there, yeah, with grid carved into it and the occasional little cracks, and then black base and various layers of gray and dry brushing at the end, etc. Just to make it look kind of stone-like. A lot of those, I've also done some accessories to go with it. For instance, a little staircase. You probably saw that in the I Want My Mummy. That appeared in I Want My Mummy. It was the connecting stuff between two floors. And so I made that one. It's the same way that actual staircases would have been made in the Middle Ages. The spiral staircases, just the keyhole shape and stacked up. Now, one thing I discovered is that, when they did these in castles and whatnot, the outer edge was attached to a wall, so that if you stood here, the whole thing didn't tip over. It was also made out of stone, a lot heavier. So I wouldn't actually recommend this method if you're going to make one yourself without putting some sort of support at the end here. Something at the end that'll connect it to the ground so that it doesn't get too wobbly, because mine are, well, I did end up having to put a piece in here just to keep it from falling over. So, but anyway, they look pretty cool. Anyhow, that's that. Another thing that Black Magic Craft always shows is pillars. You also would have seen these if you watched the episode I Want My Mummy. You would have seen these in I Want My Mummy. I made 4 of them. They're dead easy, and they're really useful in dungeons if you're doing terrain and you're doing dungeon tiles or a battle mat. You're just doing some scatter terrain on there, because they provide obstacles. It breaks up sight lines. It just makes the room more interesting. And I did the 4 pillars, and then my eldest, he decided to do a ruined pillar, which I think ended up pretty cool. So he did the ruined pillar with the sort of crumbling there at the top. So that was pretty neat. I thought that was a good idea on his part. His brothers don't really do much in the way of terrain. I mean, they're younger, obviously, and so he does a lot of that stuff. I also, in the Lizard Man episode, there was a well, and I thought, I'll make a well for it, and I never got around to it until after I had done the episode. And all it is a ring, and I just cut the circle out and then cut the middle out of the circle and put it on a piece of cardstock, really. And then all I did for the water, and you can see it's not great water. I didn't do any resin pouring or anything. I just painted the bottom sort of greenish blue and then layered a whole bunch of glossy Mod Podge on it. I put matte Mod Podge on the rest and glossy down there. And it doesn't look just like water or anything. I've seen much better water effects done. I think Josh at Scattercraft, I think his name's Josh, I'm pretty sure it is. Scattercraft, at any rate, is his channel. He does a really good fountain. But this is, it's passable. Well, and that's the same technique I used actually for, just on a bigger scale, for the pool in the Coila Jomher, the snare wood, the secret forest. In that one, though, I did put a pretty intricate pattern at the base of it. I really like that sort of root look. And I got that because this middle circle I made by pressing the cap to a, one of those black fly, kind of the booze drink. I pressed that down in there just to make the inner circle, and then it had, how the cap's attached to a ring, and there's little spikes around it. Wherever those pushed in, it made a little mark, and so I decided to connect those up as the sort of, root and branch pattern in the middle of that. So I thought that was pretty fun. It's the same deal as the small well, though. Speaking of Battle and Barrow, he was making some really cool houses, and I almost knocked it over earlier. Now, I will say I got the idea from him. I probably went off script. I don't know. Maybe I did it like his. A little wee house, and a little tiny window there, and there's another tiny window in the back. I purposely didn't put very big windows in there because in medieval world they wouldn't have done big windows. That would have been a place where cold air got in, and they'd have to figure out a way to block it up during the winter. His design is pretty cool because he's got I'm sure other people do it too, but that's where I got it from him. He does the floor as a separate piece, so that when you want to go play the scene inside, you pop off the top and you have access to the whole room. And I've got a border around the edge in stone to show where the wall would be. And I did the floor technique. I can't remember if this is the technique he used or if I got that. I know Black Magic Craft does it with a wire brush to scrape through the foam. This is just foam core foam. Everything that I make is foam core or that insulation foam. So anyway, I think I got that from, I know I saw it on Black Magic Craft. I think Battle and Barrow probably does it too. I'll have to go back and watch his house episode again. Poor me, watching more of a lovely Englishman describe terrain making. The neat thing about the way he does this, though, is that when you take the roof off, you've got the, instead of attaching, the floor to the bottom and playing in over the edge, you have the floor totally visible, but then if you take the roof off, you've got a floor here, and then you could stack another layer on. You could put another one of these on top and have a 2-story house, and then a 3-story. You could go up and up and up and up and up. And he's got it very all worked out in modular style so that you can mix and match and switch around the top and bottom and the different roofs and hook things together. It's really cool. It's really cool. And a little hole there. I don't know where it is. I made a little toothpick ladder to go up there as well. The roof actually is my son's work. It's my eldest boy's work, Fleetwood. It's actually his work. I never did get around to making a roof, and he had made his, and it was better than anything I could make, so I thought, I'll just take that one. He won't notice. And not to keep harping on about Battle and Barrow, but hi, Kev. He was also making docks. Because he did a whole series of adventures, seaborne, and in a port town. And so I thought, well, that sounds pretty cool. So I made a wee dock as well. And it really is just coffee stirrers and skewers, like barbecue skewers, shish kebab skewers. And the structure underneath. It's probably easier to see where it's not painted, how I put it together. It's really, really simple. I did give one cross piece just for some stability in the middle. And then a coiled up piece of rope which has been soaked in glue and then wrapped up just for some flavor on the dock there. I found this really hard. The hard part was getting the sticks all the right length, the skewers, so that the dock didn't rock. In the end, what I decided to do is I hooked a few of them on solid, and then the others I broke the glue because I had glued them in place and it was all wobbly. So I broke the glue so that I could slide them up and down. And once I got them into place, standing here with the the wood of the dock already. It's difficult to see. Maybe if I do this, with the wood of the dock already around the post, I then was able to glue it in place. I'm spending a lot of time on the dock. It's really not that complicated, but I think it looks pretty cool. I haven't used this, by the way. Like, I haven't used the little well at all because I made it too late for the adventure where I was going to use it. I haven't used this, and I haven't used the house either. I've made it, and it sat on a shelf, and I haven't had any call for it. I thought about using it for the for Sylvius when they meet the the dungeon delver, essentially. Hi, Bill. When they met him, I thought I'll set it up in there, and I thought no, it's gonna be too crowded. It's really not big enough for what his room would be, so I skipped it. Anyway, another one I did use in the fight with Balamorg, when they go looking for what has been killing the sheep and they discover it's a dragon, or the dragon discovers them, the little roundhouse. Now, I got this idea from, oh golly, I've forgotten the name of the channel. He does really good stuff, and I'll link all of these below. I'll link all of them below. But it was fun because it involved actually, the upper wall there is actually woven, it's string, again, woven through toothpicks with the sharp ends cut off. I coated the inside with, I can't remember what it was. It may have just been paper, maybe? I don't know. Just to look like a plaster or a sort of, plaster. And then stones on the outside, obviously. A lot of fun. And the top made with jute strings, a jute string with twine of some sort. There's a paper cone or a cardstock cone inside. That was the old lady's hut in the woods, the old lady with all the wolves that were her pets. They still don't know what her story is. She may come back, I don't know. She was fun though, I like that. Some other things are just dead easy, and I'm almost embarrassed to show them off because they're so obvious, but I just went out and got sticks and took air dry clay. Now I haven't even painted the bases of them, and my excuse is, oh, it's snowy out, which is stupid because everything else I put grass on because I did. But yeah, it's just air dry clay with a stick in it, but it really helps in the, it's a really, really cheap way. I know they don't look, like real trees necessarily, but they look good enough for my game, So I thought those were pretty cool. I made a whole whack of them too for the Coil Jome here, again, for the forest. I can hide things under the camera, can't I? You can't see them. All right. Yeah, a whole whack of, I have a whole forest of them. Oh, something else that my my eldest boy did. Actually, I'll finish the super easy stuff. Again, for scattercraft stuff, this is just the XPS foam, leftover bits. And I don't throw them away, much to the chagrin of everyone who shares a house with me. But they make wonderful little standing stones, You chop them up, make them look all jagged. Standing stones, all cut up, all different angles. And really with this, if you've got a battle mat, or even if you just have some grass tiles and things like that, you just put a few of them around, and suddenly you've got a creepy stone circle, without any huge effort. I will mention before I get on to the other thing, speaking of standing stone circles, the one that I made for the Mummy episode. This one, I did not have the adventure in mind when I made it. I just wanted to make some standing stones. And I wanted it to be more primitive, not, a real advanced like Stonehenge. Real primitive standing stone circle. And at first when I made it, I didn't have the skull in mind at all. I just put a blob of glue over, there's a hole in the middle of it all. And it covers up, there's a wee, there's a wee candle in there. As well as one of these twist on. And yeah, it's just enough. And what I did is on a piece of wax paper, I just made blobs of hot glue. And you put that over it and the whole thing glows with a sort of eerie light. And so it looks like, I don't know, some sort of slime monster or something. But then I decided I would go with the skull instead. And it's just a piece of stuffing, like stuffed animal stuffing, with a blob of hot glue to keep it weighted and standing. And then the skull comes from the dollar store. And I just nestled him inside the stuffing. And I tell you, if you are making terrain, if you like to craft your own terrain, if you're into that kind of stuff, dollar stores around Halloween, that's the place. Christmas is good too if you want trees. Black Magic Craft again has a great video about making the Christmas tree decorations, the little, making a little Christmas village, taking those trees from a dollar store and actually making them look really good. So that Christmas is probably not quite as good as Halloween, but Christmas is pretty good for that stuff. Christmas is much better, by the way, in other ways. I'm professionally obliged to remind you of that. Anyway, yeah, I made this the standing stone thing, and then an adventure came out of the terrain instead of the other way around. What I was going to show you that my eldest did, again, based on, I feel like I'm sponsoring, he sponsored it or something. He didn't pay me anything to do this, based on a Battle and Barrow model of a fireplace. He didn't do what Battle and Barrow did with a light inside. That's probably a bit beyond his level. It's probably a bit beyond my level, frankly. But he did go out and get an actual stick and cut it down and put it in there for for firewood. So that was charming. Little thing I did, again in the lizards, the lair of the lizardmen, was the plinth with the altar on it, the dais rather, with the altar on it. And it's real simple. The altar has, there is a little bit of spot of blood to suggest a violent past. But I wanted this piece to be usable for other things, and so the altar comes off. And there's a magnet in the bottom of it, and a screw that I've then painted over there. You really look, you can see it. But the idea is I can then put other things on there as well, and they'll also stick, so I can have a little throne. Now, I haven't put a magnet in the base of this yet. It's classic for me. I get a great idea of something that would be really useful and modular, and then I half do it, and so it doesn't actually end up anyhow. But there's, yeah, you could put any sort of thing on the top. You could portals or whatnot. It's just pretty cool. Now the big stuff, what I really wanted to show you. At the top of the mountain where the players found the treasure of the skeleton and fought the chimera was this. This came out of having a whole bunch of foam core left over. The church where the rector, the village that church is in every year has a big Canada Day parade on July 1st. And it's classic small town parade. But the church always has a float, and this year the theme was making music to God. And so I wanted musical notes hanging all over the place. And I was going to do them out of poster board, black poster board. And then I thought, oh, if I do it out of black foam core, then I can keep all the foam core afterward. So I did. So I had all these musical notes. Well, you know the shape of a note, right? Big dot stick. But afterward, after they were all finished, I had all these notes. And I cut the stems off because I figured the long, narrow, those could be any number of things. Actually, I think they may be the walls of the house. Or I may have done a house before that. It doesn't matter. But I can make more houses because I have lots of strips of foam. But the dots, the note itself, the bottom part, had all of this stack of them. And I had them all piled up. And I thought, well, what can I do with that? And it came to mind this sort of enclosure, this sort of horseshoe-shaped, almost a donut of stone with a cave in one side, right? And it would be useful for, combat, different levels of combat, and then, of course, as an entrance for further adventure, which I could switch to dungeon tiles for. And so you can see it's just layers and layers and layers. You can probably see in the video itself where I used it. It's just layers of foam. I was hoping that it would look like, there's a kind of sedimentary stones, rock faces that you see around Ontario, Wisconsin. I was hoping it would look like that. I'll try to find a picture, and I'm going to try to throw a picture right here. So if you see my face, I couldn't find a picture of it, and apparently I dreamed this terrain. But it does exist. And I tried to make that with some scrap pieces. I did a test run to see if I could make a rock face look like that. And it didn't. It just ended up looking like a stone wall, like it was built by a well, it was built by a person, but it really looked like it was built by a person. So I abandoned that and I just stacked them up. This actually may be the first piece on which I used a hot wire cutter, not a table, Proxon. I have neither the money nor the space for one of those, but those little handheld ones, which are perfectly fine. So I stacked them up. I glued the circles together, and then I had to do it in 2 chunks because the mouth of the portable one isn't big enough to get all of this in it. But I then used that to carve, and then afterward went at it with the Alpha knife, again with the handheld hot wire cutter, and with a technique that I learned from Scattercraft, which is the tip of the glue gun. Get the glue gun nice and hot, and it shows up better in person, but you can get these neat, can't get the, oh, there it is. You see these little lines that go down, you know, really kind of cool stuff you can do, you know, with the tip of the glue gun, just using it to melt the foam away. Don't do too much of that because it does get a little stinky and I'm sure not good for your health. Anyway, I thought this was pretty cool. I had intended it to be kind of on the ground, but I posted it on the Patreon page and just to let the patrons see what was going on. And someone suggested, it was Adam suggested, to be up on a cliff somewhere, and some flying creature would be living there. And he had suggested a wyvern, but then I was at our friendly local game shop and saw the Chimera Mini, and I thought that was pretty cool. So I got that as actually the first big bad guy that the patrons supported, the patrons sponsored. He should wear a little, you know, sign around his neck, sponsored by. And finally, the one I really love, the bridge. Yeah, well, you can't really see it. Maybe I'll tip the camera. Hello. I really like this one. This came from an idea from a viewer over on the Facebook page, I think. I had posted a picture of the skeleton warrior, the skeleton knight, and Ian suggested that it should be guarding a bridge somewhere, and you have to defeat it to get across the bridge. And at first I thought I'd make just a little, you know, like a very normal medieval looking bridge. And I thought, no. And I had these scraps of long, thin scraps of the XPS foam. I thought, no, that's what I'm going to do. So this was born. And so this is 3, I've got a picture of it where it's not painted. It's easier to see. It's 3 strips of it. And then there's a strip of foam core on top. And then on top of that, again, there's coffee stirrers, dollar store coffee stirrers. And little bits of foam core on the side, which have been melted down with the hot glue gun and carved up with the handheld hot wire cutter, just to make it look like it's, I don't know, somehow there's magic imbued in it. It's hard to see on camera, but this side probably has better paint job on it. There's reddishness along the lip, as if, you know, generations of warriors have been trying to defeat this skeleton and he's killed them all and their blood has gone over the side. Is that really dark for a game that I'm playing with my kids? It feels really dark, but I thought it was cool. Anyway, and the 2 sides, you can only see one of them in the shot, but the 2 sides are just, again, XPS foam layered up. And it, you know, it looks like it's made out of things layered up. It doesn't look like one unified thing, but hey, sometimes rocks do that. And the advantage of having the individual layers all visible is that there's lots of places to stand minis, right? There's lots of places to put a mini down. And I did a few decorations, looking at a couple of rocks of different colors, a little tiny bit of flocking, just a tiny bit of flocking on there to suggest some scrubby grass that's growing up at this level. And then I got, you would have seen them probably in the video. I'll show you this one. Some of those little tufts. Again, the friendly local game shop had them on for like $5. So I got a few of those. Yeah. The other thing that helps this mini out is the poster board. It's just a piece of poster board, and I just painted, dark stripe in the middle. In my mind, I was going to do some very photorealistic, or, at least close to photorealistic thing of the side of the mountain, plunging down into the dark chasm, and you can't really see the bottom. And I don't know what I thought. That's not me. I'm not an artist. I'm not an artist. But this is graphic and simple, and it represents the depth of the thing, and it kind of shows the layout. It gives an idea. It's better than playing it on this table, which is is where we play, and it's bright white. That's not. It just looks like, oh no, I'll fall 15 feet. Oh dear, This makes it look a lot more dangerous. So those are the bits of terrain that I've made, and that my eldest boy has made as well. One other thing I want to show you that he made. It's not terrain to use in a game necessarily, but it is to use in a game. And that is for my birthday last year, so almost a year ago now. Was it for Father's Day? Ooh, time has telescoped for me. But he made this really cool DM screen. Isn't that cool? So I will lift it up a little bit. Yeah, it's got a little castle door and a little tower. But the tower is actually a dice tower. So there you have it. That's some of the stuff that we get up to in crafting the game. We'll have an episode coming up soon. I know what we're doing now, and I think everyone's kind of getting over the sniffles and everything else that we'll be able to play soon. So next week, look for your regularly scheduled The Dungeon Minister! I didn't bring the horn.